This is AEW Unrestricted. Aubrey Edwards and Tony Schiavone inviting you into our respective podcast studio, his man cave, my living room. This is my dining room. I don't know. It's a small-ass condo. It's all kind of the same room. Anyway, today we have a special guest, and his name is Tony Schiavone. Hooray!
Hey, I'm not answering anything. Nothing.
All right. This has been AEW Unrestricted. Thank you, everyone. Tune into Dynamite on Wednesdays. Just kidding. So it's funny because early on when we first started doing this podcast, we were in Miami, I think, and we were supposed to have Tony Khan on the podcast, and he had to cancel last minute because he was negotiating our extension with TNT. And you turned to me. Oh, yeah, no, it's way more important.
That's right.
You turned to me and looked at all the people in the room that had flown out to film this podcast and said, why don't we do one with you? And I'm like, okay, cool, great. Because no one really knew who I was, and you're the voice of everyone's childhood. So I've had people ask me on Twitter for pretty much since then, when are you going to turn it around and put Tony in the hot seat?
Oh, okay.
So that is today. Hooray. Oh. And to be perfectly honest, I'm incredibly nervous because you're probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest commentators in the history of wrestling.
Well, it's very nice of you to say that. I don't consider myself that.
Of course you don't. You're a humble man.
Because to me, the greatest announcers in wrestling are number one, Jim Ross, and then number two, everybody else that I grew up watching.
Who'd you grow up watching?
Bob Caudle, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, who I was very fortunate to get to work with. Gordon Soley, who I was very fortunate to get to work with. Gorilla Monsoon, who I was very fortunate to get to work with. To me, and of course on another level, Jesse Ventura and Bobby Heenan. All the guys that I knew as a wrestling fan growing up, starting in the late 70s through the 80s, I eventually got to work with. So, so I appreciate you saying that, but I don't accept that. I'm just another job guy. Jabroni.
Jabroni, just a commentator jabroni. I love it.
Right.
Before we get into it, I want to talk about your accolades because we definitely talk about this with all of our guests. Your biggest accolade is Wrestling Observer Newsletter called you the worst television announcer in 1999 and 2000.
Yeah.
Are you proud of that fact?
I'm proud of the fact that I maintained being a bad announcer during a bad promotion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, no, you've been very open about kind of your thoughts during that time period.
Yeah. I really think that, first of all, if I can be so blunt.
Oh, please. This is unrestricted, Tony.
Dave Meltzer, who I know and who I like and I've been friendly with for years, can kiss my ass. That's number one. Okay. Okay. It was not a good time, and I've had people since then say, "Oh, the matches were so bad that it drugged you down." Well, that's an excuse. When the matches are really bad is when you have to shine. It's when you have to up your game and make it. And maybe I was a little too much over the top. And I go back and I listen to those days, 99 and 2000. I go back and I listen to those days or watch that, and it bugs me. Because I was nothing but a hype machine, and I tried to overhype it, and I was pushed to do that too, and I get it, but still, you got to accept responsibility for it. I could have done a much better job, and I was kind of checked out at that time. I'm giving you a litany of excuses here, which I shouldn't, but I get it. I was bad. We were bad. Let's move on, basically.
But I think there's something to that. Like, I really respect you for a number of reasons, but one of the things I really like is that even though you've been doing this for so long, I know that you're willing to look at the work you've done and evaluate it and learn from it, even if it's, this last Wednesday or if it's 20 years ago. And that's something I really admire about you. So even though you were terrible then, you were in a terrible situation, but I think you did the best with what you could do, excuses or not.
Yeah, and there was that had left such a bad taste in my mouth that I left wrestling for a long, long time. And now that I look back on it, I didn't realize exactly how many fans out there really did overall like my work. And so I'm right now. I'm the product of nostalgia. Nostalgia is big, and so I'm reaping the benefits of that. And that fact does not escape me. But I go back and I look at that, and I try to grow from it, and I try to get better. And I accept change. I think I accept change more than most people do, and embrace change.
I'd agree with that. So talking a little bit about, I mean, we've talked about this privately a lot, and I think we both said it, that working for AEW, like, we're having the time of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, how did your AEW story happen?
It's a long one.
Well, we've got some time, Tony.
Okay. First of all, I knew from my friends, and I say my friends, Conrad Thompson and I have been doing a podcast for quite a while, and Conrad had told me a few years back that it looks like that Tony Khan's new promotion is going to be on TNT. He said, "What do you think about that?" I said, "I don't think anything about it. I'm out of wrestling, with the exception of doing your podcast." And so it did interest me. That I thought, man, that's a great idea to get somebody else's podcast on, or somebody else's product on a major cable channel. So that being said, I never did at all ask for a job or call Tony Khan or call Cody or call, just check with the Bucks. Didn't do anything.
So who reached out to you?
What's that?
Who reached out to you then?
Cody did. And let me tell you how that story went. I was in 20. I'll just try to get this brief story down. In 2015, at the end of 2015, I had lost my job with the radio station, WSB, and I had been working as their sports director and working as an editor on their website for a number of years, actually for 13 years. I lost that job. My contract was not renewed. They wanted to cut back. And so in December 2015, I was thrown out, basically, no job and no health insurance. For someone in their 50s, that's a pretty scary thing. So I still work for the University of Georgia doing on their football broadcast, on their basketball broadcast, and I still have the job with the Braves AAA team. So I did have work, but I didn't have enough to really supplement my income and pay the house here. So I got the family together and said, I'm going to have to sell the house, guys. I don't think I can afford this. So hung in there, and 2016 was a terrible year financially for the Schiavone family. I started working at Starbucks for a number of reasons. Number one, I needed the job and was looking for health insurance, which they offered. And number two, I really like Starbucks, and I like the people. Yeah, I like the people. And I discovered by working in there that I was right. It was a great place to work. Now, everybody has Starbucks stories that work there, and some people don't like it and some people do. I love working there. I really was a great year and a half working there. So anyway, at the end of 2016, during 2016, I did a NWA Fan Fest where I did a panel with Jim Valley. Conrad Thompson was in that, and he saw how funny I was, how irreverent I was, how I was obviously talking honestly. And he approached me in 2017 to do a podcast. And we started the podcast. That podcast led to us doing some crazy things online, of which Tony Khan saw and liked. And I got to know Bruce Pritchard, because Bruce does a podcast with Conrad as well. Bruce told me at the beginning of 2019, he said, I'm going to go back and work for Vince. If you'll give, this was like January 2019, he said, if you'll give me a few months, I'll contact you, because I think you can come to work here. He did contact me on a Sunday in the summertime of that year. And he said, Vince wants you to come back to work for us. And I said, great. What are we talking about? He said, we still don't know yet, but we know we'd like for you to be a producer, because we know you like to produce. We know you like to work behind the scenes. We'll be back in touch. I said, got it. So you get an offer like that thinking, man, things may be on the way up. So do I call my wife? No, I call Conrad. I said, I just got offered a job from the WWE. And he said, that's great. hung up the phone. 2 minutes later, I got a text from Cody.
How did he know?
Conrad called him, and he said, Cody says, I don't want you to go to work for the WWE. And I said, okay, good. And that's all I said. And then he said, will you accept a call from Tony Khan? I said, sure. Tony called me. We talked for an hour.
Of course.
Over an hour, because you know how he can go. And,
he goes.
And he goes. So it was very interesting. And he said, I'm going to have you come down to Jacksonville. Now, during this time, the WWE kept talking to me, and I never told the WWE that Tony Khan had an interest in me. I was just listening to what they had to say. So they would call me and they would say, we don't have our ducks in a row yet. We'll be back in touch with you. Bruce called, said, Vince is very much interested, really wants you to come here and end your career. I said, okay, well, then make me an offer.
Right.
And so they had an HR person call me, and they say, how much do you need? Well, I threw the ball way up in the air on that one. And they said, okay, we'll be back in touch with you. Meanwhile, I go down and talk to Tony Khan. And I met with Tony. It was an all-day meeting at the stadium. And I knew immediately I wanted to work there. And I also had a wife of mine we've been married now 39 years, who told me, if you take a job back with the WWE, I'm going to divorce your ass. So, but I didn't play two sides against the middle. I didn't. So I was just waiting and waiting to hear. Tony offered me something phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to work there, but I was going to listen to what the WWE had to say.
I mean, you're a smart guy. Like, that's what you have to do, is that if you've got multiple people talking, you have to listen to all of the offers. It's just pure business.
Sure it is. And I was not one that called the WWE and say, listen, Tony Khan has offered me this, or go to Tony. And I did tell Tony, I said, I did hear from the WWE. And Tony says, well, if they offer you $1 million, take it. I said, don't worry, I will. And Lois told me, it doesn't matter what they offer you, don't take it. So anyway, she has a bad feeling about them. So anyway, Monday, the week of SummerSlam, they contacted me and said, we will be back in, I was now just talking to the HR, one of the HR ladies. We'll be back in touch with you right after SummerSlam. So the Monday after SummerSlam, I get a call first thing in the morning, and the lady says, from the WWE says, thank you for your interest, Mr. Schiavone. We have nothing for you. Mm-hmm. And I went, you guys contacted me.
Yeah.
Okay. I immediately turned around and called Tony. I said, I'm in.
Yes.
And that's how it happened, basically.
Weren't you at the first Double or Nothing?
Yes, I was.
You were watching as a fan.
Watching as a fan. Here's a little crazy story about that was, I really felt bad about that. I'm honestly did. We were doing, Conrad has these fan fest that he calls Starcast, and he tries to have them around, he had the first one around All In, and so we had one at Double or Nothing. We had one over at Caesars. So Conrad said, hey, a bunch of us are going. We want you to go with us. And I went, I'm not going. He said, come on, you'll sit beside me at ringside and we'll go. I said, I'm not going. And I had my son, Matt, who worked with us behind the scenes. And Conrad said, your son's going to go. He wants you to sit beside him. I said, I'm not going. I'm just not going to go. And then he said, so he convinced me to go. And then, of course, he didn't go. So I'm sitting front row ringside with Mike Dawkins, who's our lawyer, and Matt Schiavone and Dave Silva and a bunch of us sitting. And I'm sitting front row freaking ringside. And I'm really pissed. But here's why I'm really pissed. Because the show is about the kids in the ring. It ain't about me. And I know some jackoff out there is going to make it about me being there on social media. And they did. Somebody took a picture of me yawning. Schiavone seems to be bored.
Oh.
God bless America. Kiss my ass. I wasn't bored, okay? And that's why I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be seen there. But I'm glad I went in a way because I saw some great stuff. I really did. And so that's the story of me being front row ringside. It was kind of a swerve by Conrad to get me there. So
damn. All right. So before we take a break, mm-hmm. one of my favorite things I've ever seen working with you was your call when Sting debuted. and just how absolutely wild you went. And the response to your response was just over the top, and everyone's saying, oh my God, Schiavone's losing his mind. This is great. When did you find out Sting was there? Because I found out when I came through the curtain. I gave him a fist bump and went, yo, it's Sting, and then walked away. Because they kept that pretty secret for all of us, and I know very, very few select people knew.
Well, I had known that there was a chance that Sting would come to work for us. I think that had been bandied around quite a bit. The last thing I had heard was that, well, Sting may go to work for AEW, but he's concerned. He's of his time with the WWE. He doesn't know what he wants to do, and that's all I heard. Didn't know when it was happening. And then when we got there the day of, I get there early in the backstage area, and Cody says, your buddy's here today.
You went Conrad Thompson?
That's right. Dude, I got a lot of buddies.
Yeah.
I said, who are you talking
Britt
about?
Baker?
He said, yeah, my best buddy. I said, who are you talking about? He said, Sting. I said, you are shitting me. He said, no. He said, you just got to keep it quiet. I said, don't worry. I'm good at keeping stuff quiet. I come from the old school. And so I did, with the exception of, I did this because I knew I wasn't really letting on that I knew that Sting was there. But Mark Quinn of Private Party is such a big Sting fan. I know there's a lot more. But Mark Quinn of Private Party would always come up to me and go, it's Sting. And I'd go, give him a thumbs up. Even to the point to where when Mark Quinn, one of his matches, I went, it's Mark Quinn.
Oh, my God.
No one got that, but he did. So he's a big Sting fan. So I saw him during the day, and I said, hey, buddy, don't get too excited about tonight's show. And he goes, takes his headphones off. He said, I'm just in the Battle Royal. How excited can I get? I said, just don't get too excited.
Wow.
Hit him up a second time. Hey, buddy, don't get too excited about tonight's show. That's all I said to him. And then when Sting came out, Stevie, our stage director, handed me a note from Mark Quinn and said, OMG. So I knew that it was happening, and I didn't know how we were going to present it. But Tony brought me in. He said, and he told all the other announcers, he says, when Sting comes out, I want Schiavone to hit that It's Sting line.
Yes.
And he said, I want you to do it because that's really going to sell it. He said, I want you to say, it's Sting. Sting is back on TNT for the first time since March 26, 2001, and Sting is in AEW. And so I hit those, I think I hit two of those lines, and JR hit Sting as an AEW, which I thought really worked out well. But yeah, great response for it. My voice cracked. Someone said, your voice cracked. I said, well, guess what, dude?
It's Sting.
It's Sting, and I'm older. Okay. It's not 2001. It's 2020.
Right.
So
you can't really worry about what you sound like. Like, it's really just as long as the reaction is organic and authentic, I think that's what's most important. But you know,
sure.
I'm just telling you what
Sure.
you already know.
So to wrap this up about Sting, or that night, I think that my excitement was authentic. It was authentic when they told me earlier in the day, and I just wish I would have seen him walk through the backstage area, going to the gorilla position, because that would have been worth me being back there just to see everybody's reaction, because everybody's reaction out front, all the wrestlers who sat ringside, I mean, those kids were giving each other high fives and everything. So I told Sting the next day, I said, listen, you need to do this. And I think he understood, and I hope he was going to do it anyway. I said, you need to go out today and mingle with these kids, because you're a god to these guys and girls.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
I said, you need to go out and just say hello. It will mean the world to these people. And I think he did on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably didn't get it. I mean, he knows he's Sting, right? But he probably didn't get it like I get it, how much that what we did in the past means to the youngsters out there.
Absolutely.
Who are not only wrestlers, but work behind the scenes. So it was a great moment.
Absolutely.
Long
great
story
moment.
for a great moment. It was a great one. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of many in the year we've had for Dynamite so far.
Yes.
This is AEW Unrestricted. I've got Tony Schiavone in the hot seat. We're going to talk about a couple of those special moments.
One thing I'd like to talk about is State Farm Insurance. And I say I like to talk about that because I've been a State Farm customer, a member, if you will, since 1981, since the year that I was married. State Farm has surprisingly great rates on both auto and homeowners.
Tony, you've been a member of State Farm since before I was born.
There you go.
That means that they must have like great customer service. They've got agents available everywhere. Like, to be a member of a company for that long, you have to be really, really happy with their policies.
I'm happy with their policies, and now I'm happier, Aubrey, with their easy-to-use technology, because back then you would have to have the insurance card in your wallet. It was a paper insurance card or like a cardboard insurance card. Now you have it on your phone. They have a great app, and you have your insurance card right on your smartphone. So the technology that is advanced in the world has also advanced insurance, thanks to our people at State Farm.
So you can manage your coverage, pay your bill, file a claim, all just from your phone. Some you already carry around with you. Who needs cardboard cards anymore? Jeez.
No boy. A great price with even greater service. So Aubrey, as I always say, when you want the real deal,
like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. You say that all the time, Tony.
I do.
This is AEW Unrestricted. Aubrey Edwards doing her best Tony Schiavone impression and interviewing Tony Schiavone. We've talked a little bit about Sting, how you got to AEW. One of the things I want to touch on, and we talked about it when we first had TK on the podcast, I think, the Atlanta shows and how instrumental you were to those happening. Like, we recorded 6 episodes of television in a single day, just for those that maybe missed the podcast. Like, everything was shutting down across the United States. The pandemic was really starting to reach new heights. We had sort of been kicked out of Florida. We had to drive to Atlanta, and just, we didn't know when we were going to be live on television again. So we had to get a fuckload of stuff in the can just to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And you recorded commentary from, I think, noon until midnight. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was really a great experience for me for a number of reasons. Because I felt like I was really an instrumental part of something at a very important time for our company. You obviously, we all like to feel valued and we all like to feel important, but that was really important because we had to get shows in the can. The night before, we had taped some things the night before, and Tony called me back to his trailer and he said, "Hey, we've got to put together these shows because tomorrow's going to be our last day." So he sat there with a piece of paper and a pen, and he and I formatted out, 6 weeks worth of shows. I think it ended up being 4 weeks worth of shows, but we formatted 6 weeks worth. And I was just sitting there and he was writing down, and to deal with Tony on a professional level during a TV taping day, you have to really be on your toes because he's all over the place in a good way. He's thinking about this, he's thinking about that. He gets a call, he gets a text from somebody in the truck. So I just hung with him and we just formatted all these shows. So we went into the next day. I'm thinking I've got 6 shows to do and I'm the only one here. And I was told I was going to have a Colt Cabana with me a little bit. Somebody else is going to be with me. And then when I got there the next day, Tony says, Jericho's coming in. He's going to be with you the entire time.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, that was exciting.
I remember hearing about that, Jericho wasn't there, called Tony and said, "What do you need from me?" And drove all the way from Tampa to Atlanta on very, very short notice just to kind of give you someone to throw some stuff against. And I think that was maybe one of the first times we had Jericho on commentary, and now he comes back occasionally for the bigger shows and bigger story elements. But the two of you meshed so incredibly well.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about working with Jericho.
Well, look, I've known Chris for a long, long time. I feel that I was instrumental in his career because he came to WCW in the 90s, and I was there when he first started with us, and he went on to be a major star. I told Chris this many times. Chris, you were the first unified world champion that WWE ever had. And he says, yeah, but you do understand that night I won the title. I wasn't the main event. It was Hogan and Rock. I said, it doesn't matter. They cannot take that away from you. Of all the people and I know it was an angle. I get it with Mr. McMahon. But I said, one thing they can never take away from you, you were the first unified champion between WCW and the WWE. And he said, yeah, I get that. So I realized what a big star he is. And I also realized how much he thinks and cares about the business and puts an effort into his character. I wish everybody did. That's not slight on anybody, but I think to me, Chris Jericho is kind of like Diamond Dallas Page was back in the day. He's always thinking about what can I do to make myself better or come up with an angle. So I started, and Tony Khan loved it. He said, you and Jericho were just tremendous. And I felt that we did have a great relationship, and we did have a great working relationship. And I like to think I can work with anybody because I never fight for broadcast time. I never fight to try to get my quote unquote, try to get my shit in. I never try to do that. I let Chris Jericho's Chris Jericho. He's a big star. They want to hear him talk. And the only thing I need to do, basically the only thing I need to do, Aubrey, is welcome everybody back, call the 1, 2, 3, and pitch to a break. That's basically all I need to do. Chris Jericho can fill it up all the time. And that's why when I've worked with Excalibur, I told Excalibur, I said, you take it, buddy. You know, he and I worked on a lot of the buy-in shows together. And Excalibur said, do you want to take the lead? I said, no, man, do it. I never fight for that. And so I let Chris Jericho be Chris Jericho. And I think it really, really worked out. And I think we had a great relationship. And even somebody said, and I don't know, somebody said, man, it was like Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan back in the day. And I'm thinking, wow. Now, that is quite a compliment, but I'm not so sure it was that good.
That's
but maybe
high
it
praise.
was. I don't know. That is high praise, yeah.
One of the things that I really appreciated, like I know listening to it back, because I mean, I didn't watch wrestling back in the day. I've told that to many people, and to me, to you and me, like you're just a coworker, and I know you have a long, illustrious history. But one of the things that really stuck out to me in those Atlanta shows is you talk about not getting your shit in, but I think that you can adapt so well to a situation. Excalibur is our play-by-play, and he wasn't there, and just seeing you immediately and seamlessly transition into play-by-play so that Jericho could do color commentary, I immediately was just like, oh my God, Schiavone's the best. He understands exactly what he needs to provide to the product at any moment. And there's many people on our roster that are capable of doing that, but it's just one of the many things that you've done that I really appreciate.
Well, thanks for saying that. I get that from I think starting in the early '80s, and you know, I mentioned Bob Caudle and Gordon Soley and Jim Ross and the guys who are the top of the line play-by-play guys. I think I learned that back in the '80s, that your job was to, as an announcer, put over the talent, and that means the guys in the ring, or in our case, the guys or girls in the ring, and or your color commentator. That's your job to do that. So I always knew what my job was, and I always took it seriously. So I was during those days when we were in Atlanta that one day, and I think I ended up doing 26 matches or something like that. It was something crazy. I think I realized that my job was not only to get the talent over, but it was also to help Jericho get over, which he doesn't need to get over because he's over.
Right. But he's Jericho. But
to help him get over as a color commentator and get just make sure that Chris Jericho was Chris Jericho, not Chris Jericho fighting for time with Tony Schiavone. So.
Exactly. So what are some of your favorite matches that you've called at AEW so far?
Oh, in AEW so far?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite match is Revolution.
The tag match.
The Bucks against Omega and Hangman. That's my favorite one.
Why was that one your favorite?
Because there was, the only thing I can tell you is that there was a moment in that match, and I can't tell you when it was, that it hit me that we were in the middle of a special match. And I don't know why that is, but it's only hit me like that a couple of times in my career as a fan and as a broadcaster, that, man, something great's going on. And I just think I know it got 6 stars from Dave Meltzer, who, by the way, can kiss my ass.
Yep. Fuck him.
Okay.
He's a great guy.
Oh, he is. But I just realized that, I'm seeing guys do their thing, and I'm seeing something and I know we had been doing it since October, but I'm also I'm kind of seeing a transition from what I had been used to as an announcer in tag team wrestling to the new way they're doing things. A lot of high spots, a lot of dives. I mean, there was some, but there wasn't the old school Anderson brothers type grab a headlock, and it just, and they told a great story, and it was a great story about Hangman and Kenny and the Bucks and the problem with the Elite, and I thought that was just was a great story. That's my favorite match. I really enjoyed, even though it didn't last long, I really enjoyed Brody beating up Cody to win the TNT Championship.
Oh,
because it was so unexpected, and Brody is just tremendous a worker and one of the great guys of all time. And Cody's I have obviously a great tie to his family. I just thought that was just so well done and so well unexpected that I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the unexpected things. And that Orange Cassidy beating Chris Jericho, dumping him in the vat of mimosa.
Oh, so good.
Was another good one because it was unexpected. I mean, I thought for sure Chris Jericho was going to go over, and that's one of the things I love about Tony Khan is that he doesn't let me know anything.
I was going to ask, how much do you know going into a show? You obviously have the format that you follow. You know what matches are next, and you know all of those things. But do you actually know who's going over in any match?
Well, sometimes I do. If I ask. They won't necessarily come tell me unless there's something they want me to say. And that's, I think that is the more important about knowing the finish is knowing what you want to get across.
Right.
And sometimes that's knowing the finish. I think it's important that, we get the format and, like Tony will say, like the Sting thing at the end of the Cody tag team match with Darby and Team Taz, we have like 7 minutes for post-match angle. And the only thing Tony said during the meeting was, "It's going to be great. It'll be a lot of fun. You guys will like it." That's it. He didn't say Sting will come in. So then, by talking to Cody, I knew. And if there's a match that there's a finish that they want me to get over, I certainly will, say that. But I would just as soon not know exactly what's going on. I didn't know Don Callis and Kenny Omega were running out of the building.
I don't think anyone knew.
Yeah, and when Don Callis said, "Hey, we're going to see you Tuesday," I remember thinking, "Oh shit, he fucked up the day. We're on Wednesday." But then he said Impact, and I went, "Oh, good God, I didn't really know that was coming."
No,
and so that was so. I don't always know the finishes, but I do know where we're going to go or where they want me to go, and. If they want to tell me, and if I think I need to know, I'll ask, and they'll tell me. But, let me portray it like any play-by-play guy would, right?
Yeah, it kind of gives it that more sports-like feel.
Yeah, sure.
Like you never know how a football game's going to end, so why would you call it like you do?
And not only that, my job is really easy now. It really is.
Why is it so easy?
Because I got JR and Excalibur.
They just carry the load, and you pop in, like, oh my God!
It's like Conrad Thompson said to Conrad. And Conrad and I have been long friends, and I owe him so much really getting me back in the wrestling business. Conrad says, "You got the greatest job in the world. You are stealing money." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The only thing you say is, you're right, JR. You're right, Excalibur. You're right, JR. You're right, Excalibur.
You're putting over your boys."
That's right.
It's important.
But really, it's teamwork. I mean, it is. And I think we work well as a team, and I really enjoy the relationship that we all have.
We've got just fantastic relationship. I mean, we say it all the time, and I'm sure people are sick of hearing it, but we're all one family, and we're all working to make this product as good as possible.
Yeah, I don't care if they're sick of hearing it or not. I'm going to keep saying it.
Yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a number of fan questions for Tony Schiavone coming up. This is AEW Unrestricted. Aubrey Edwards and Tony Schiavone shooting the shit. This is it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for the conversation so far, Tony.
No problem. Has I ever on this podcast told the story about how you and I started working together on this podcast?
No, you should tell that story.
Yeah, it was our first show was in
DC.
Washington.
Yeah, DC.
In DC. And Nick Sobek came to me and he said, "Hey, we really want you to do our podcast," because I've had a lot of success with What Happened When, a lot of success really, and. I said, "Okay." He said, "Is there someone here you'd like to work with?" I said, "Well, I don't really know that many people here now. I know some people, but Give me some time to think about it. So later in the day, we were trying to take a picture, I believe, if you'll recall.
Oh my God, I remember this now.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Trying to take the team picture. And you and I had said hello to you. We kind of introduced each other or whatever. And so I was standing there while we were trying to get the team picture together. And you came flying down, and you said, I don't know who was standing there with me. You was trying to say, I'm trying to find the fucking photographer, and I can't find that goddamn fucking photographer anywhere. And I said, that's who I want to work with. Immediately, when you said that, the way you said it, I probably didn't get the words right. You probably cussed a lot more than I said.
Probably.
But, yeah. But I went to Nick Sobek. I said, Aubrey Edwards, I want to work with her. She's got a great personality. And that's how it happened. So
I was going to say, like, you probably didn't end up thinking about it for very long, because Sobek told me later that day, like, yeah, we want you on the podcast. And
yeah,
I'm just like, sure, okay, whatever. Oh, by the way, who's the co-host? And they're like, Tony Schiavone. I'm like, okay, that's not intimidating at all. Just a guy that sits in front of a microphone literally every episode of television. No big deal. But yeah, sure. Like, I just wanted to do whatever I could to help AEW be better. Right?
Yep.
And we talk about it a lot. Like, we both love working here. We want to do what we can to make this place last as long as possible. And I know for me personally, you've taught me a ton about just even like little tiny bits about broadcasting, because this is nothing on the scale of commentary for national television. But anyway, I digress. It was a fantastic day. Definitely a very memorable moment. I remember running down the ramp saying, I can't find a goddamn photographer. We ended up never actually taking the picture, by the way.
No, we never did.
No one was ready. Anyway, I wanted to get to some fan questions.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, there's some good ones here.
Okay.
This first one's pretty terrible, though. Dr. Britt Baker DMD on Twitter asks, hey, Tony, who's your favorite female at AEW?
My favorite female is Dr. Britt Baker DMD.
Who paid you to say that answer?
I cannot disclose where I get my money.
Why are you not making eye contact when I ask you that question?
I was looking at this paycheck I got in from some dental service.
Oh, God.
Oh, it's a refund for the dental work I got.
Wink, wink. I like it.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Jordan on Twitter. The recent rise of AEW has seen many lost fans from the glory days of WCW rediscover their love of professional wrestling. So as a WCW child turned AEW fan, he'd like to know, how has AEW helped you rediscover your love for pro wrestling?
I think it has helped me in that I kind of realized this on a much smaller scale. I did some work for MLW and Court Bauer on BN Sports before I started with AEW. And I realized back then that there are people out there, and many of them are wrestlers, who loved my commentary and remembers me as the voice of their childhood. So for me to do their matches was a big deal. And they all, quote unquote, put me over. And I realized that if by me being who I am and me being the person that had been doing all these matches for all these years can help these guys and girls enhance their career, help them make more money, help them move up in the ladder in professional wrestling, then I should probably take my job seriously. And it helped me rekindle my love for wrestling, because I always thought my job was to put people over and to make them bigger than life stars. And so now I feel like I'm doing that again. And I just kind of really got back into it just by that.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel I was a part of the team.
You're damn good at it.
Yeah. That's why Aubrey Edwards, I have never seen in my life a greater referee than Aubrey Edwards.
Checks in the mail, man. Drew on the beat on Twitter. What kind of relationship did you have with Pat Patterson, who unfortunately has left us recently and gone to the next life? Did he ever give you any advice?
I don't know if he gave me any advice, but when I interviewed with Vince McMahon in 1989 at Vince's house, Pat was there, and I got to know Pat. And I was very fortunate in that 1 year I worked with Vince that I traveled on Vince's private plane to television, and I also rode between towns. We would go out and do Superstars one night and Challenge the next. And we would fly into one town, do Superstars, drive to another town, do Challenge, and then fly back. And I would ride in the car with Vince and Pat and Bruce Pritchard, Kevin Dunn. And I got to know Pat. He had a great sense of humor, and he was always thinking about the business. He always, even when a bunch of us were cutting up in the car, he was always like, somewhere else, and he would turn to Vince and say, hey, I got an idea about the finish of that match. So I knew that he was thinking about wrestling more than any of us were thinking about wrestling all the time. And he was also very funny about his sexuality. And
who isn't nowadays though?
Okay, exactly. But this is now, we're talking 89 now, right?
True.
And so he wrestled in an era where you had to keep it quiet. And this is, listen, I've said a lot of bad things on other podcasts about the people in the WWE, but this is one thing I can say about Vince and the company back then. They did not care about Pat's sexuality. They did not care that Pat was gay, and they accepted him for it. And thus, Pat was very relaxed with us about talking about it and making jokes and everything. And we all got along, and I just thought that was so cool that we could accept him, and we all loved him and could travel with him. And he just always was, he was a lot of fun. And I got to meet Louis, his friend, his best friend. I guess today it would be called his husband. And we all got along together. We all went to Christmas parties together, and it was a great experience.
That's wonderful.
It was a great experience. And I really think that he was instrumental in me leaving Jim Crockett Promotions and working for the WWF back then, called that. Because he advised Vince on who he liked to see on TV, and it was a great experience. Did I learn anything from him? Yeah, I learned that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your sexuality, it doesn't matter what you think. You're a person, and accept a person for that. So I think I learned a lot from him, because I'd come from I was 89. I left my hometown in 1981. So 8 years before that, I had lived in a very redneck town in the South, in the hills, and I never really experienced anything like this. And it helped me grow as a person. And I really feel that Pat was a part of that.
I think that's one of the really interesting things about wrestling is the kind of people it attracts are all very different, from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different sexualities, different races, religions. And that's one of the very unique things is I think people who typically grow up in a more, let's say, traditional environment are introduced to people who they've only heard about, like, oh, well, I don't know anyone who's gay, but now I do. Oh, this is just a normal person, and they're totally fine with joking around about that stuff. Like, it's fine, and it's great. It's just an extra benefit of wrestling that I know I really appreciate, and kind of sounds like you do too.
Oh yeah. It was a great. It really was. 1989 was a great year in my development, not only as a person but also in the wrestling business. It was one of the greatest years until 2019. It was the greatest year I had professionally, was 1989.
Just to make you feel like shit, 1989, I was 2 years old.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Fistful of Rick on Twitter says, I've been a fan for years. I still watch old promos from NWA. Ric Flair and Dusty are two of my favorites. Tony, do you have any AEW favorite promo men or women that you think compared to the old school master promo people from the old school wrestling days?
Well, we don't do the numbers of promos that we did back then. We did all days of promo. I mean, we did promos from on Wednesdays, 9 in the morning, sometimes on Tuesdays, 9 in the morning to 6 at night, all day, bang, 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 bang. So we don't do enough. Cody has done a tremendous job. He did a tremendous job of leading up to the match against Jericho. He did a tremendous job in-ring promos of leading up to the match against MJF. John Moxley has done some sensational interviews leading up to the Eddie Kingston match. And Eddie Kingston has been phenomenal. One of the great talkers, really.
I mean, the way he introduced himself to the company was literally on a microphone. And I don't think there's any better way for Eddie Kingston to join AEW than spitting on the mic.
Yeah. Chris Jericho obviously has done some great things. But to me, the kid that I really hope we cultivate him and polish him up and make him a star is Ricky Starks.
Oh, 100%.
Ricky Starks, man, can do a promo.
Oh, yeah.
And it's I just think that he's I hope we continue to use him because I think he reminds me of that old school stuff.
He very much does. And I think pairing him with someone like Taz is only going to help propel him to be a bigger star.
Right.
Just with the amount of stuff I know that he's already learned. And he's got a good attitude and he's got a good look, all that stuff. Let me just put Ricky over for a minute. Maddie Anderson on Twitter. What is your favorite snack?
Oh, my favorite snack?
Yes.
Is Belvitas.
Velveeta's.
Belvitas. Belvita.
Oh, I was like, the cheese? Like, do they have a fucking cracker or something?
Yes.
Oh, like the little breakfast cookies.
The little breakfast cookie.
Oh, yeah. Knockoff Biscoff cookies.
Right. I
like
eat
to refer to them.
Actually, they're much healthier for you than Biscoff. But anyway, I eat one every morning.
Really?
It's I really shouldn't call it a snack. It's really my breakfast: a banana, Biscoff, and then about 5 monsters.
Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever seen you with not a monster in your hand.
Yeah. So yeah, I like Biscoffs. I really do. There's a potato chip that you cannot get anywhere. It's called Martin's Potato Chips, made in Philadelphia. It's a ruffled barbecue chip that when I go home to Virginia, my sister always gets for me. You can't get it anywhere, and was always my favorite growing up. But, man, I love those Belvitas, Belvita. Yeah, and I like the golden notes, not the cinnamon, not the blueberry, not the pumpkin spice.
The golden.
The golden notes.
I like it. Gold is for champions, man. You got it right. We have a question from Lee on Twitter. Hi, Tony. I've been a fan of yours since WCW days, and it's great to have you on AEW. It feels just like home. My question is, how does the energy of AEW compare to what you've done in the past? And who's your favorite wrestler in AEW?
Well, my favorite wrestler in AEW is Dr. Britt Baker DMD.
How much is that check for?
I really do enjoy Britt's company. I really do. She makes me laugh, so we have a good time. And, you know, I love to laugh, and, you know, that's why I enjoy your company, and we laugh and we joke around a lot. There's no comparison to what's going on now. During the mid '90s, we were hot, and we had a good thing going until we screwed it up. And but there was always a sense of dread. Even back in the good times of WCW. I don't get that sense of dread here. Damn. And this is the greatest feeling I've ever had doing wrestling since 1989, my year in the WWE. And even more, 10 times more than that. So there's no feeling like this. This is the best. You feel like you're a part of something. You feel like everybody's pulling the same direction. You feel like no one has an agenda. And I know people have agendas. I get that. But if they do have an agenda, it's not out front to where it disrupts everybody else. And I always say that in my age that you cannot put a price on being able to work for a good person or good people. And we do. We work for a great person in Tony Khan. And we work for great people in Tony and Mega and Chris Harrington. And Nick Sobek and Margaret, all the people who work in the front office, and even Chad Glenn, who's a Florida Gator, and I'll punch him in the nose.
Chad Glenn's the best.
If I sing. Yeah. Oh, he is?
Oh, yeah.
And kiss my ass.
Oh,
okay.
no.
So anyway,
I emailed Chad Glenn and say, hey, I need you to send this giant amount of money to AEW Games, guys. And he goes, what?
Yeah.
That's our relationship with Chad Glenn.
But he is a Florida Gator. I give him a hard time. So what I'm saying is they are all good people. And we have such a great staff behind the scenes, Keith Mitchell and Tim and everybody who works behind the scenes, they're just great people pulling the same way. So this is the best it's ever been for me on many, many levels. And you cannot compare this to WCW at all. And that's why I think this is going to work. Yeah. I knew WCW was not going to work from day one. I knew that. I had that feeling. Since I've gotten here, I know this is going to work.
This would be an incredible question to end the podcast on, but there's one other, and I'm actually very, very interested in knowing the answer to this. Joey Colombo on Twitter asks, how do you keep that luxurious head of hair flowing, luscious, and free of gray?
Okay, first of all, Joey, it's not luxurious. It's very fine hair. I do spray it up. I have never colored my hair yet. But I know it's going to happen. I know I'll wake up one day and I'll be Ted Danson and everything will be poof, it'll be gray. I do color my beard. And I think I color my beard for a number of reasons. I don't like a gray beard. And number two, Lois bitches so much about me coloring my beard that I just like to give her something to bitch about.
I like it.
So I color it. But thanks for saying that. Larry Zbyszko, you say that. You say, your hair, you have great hair.
It's so
great. And I said, Larry, that's because you have none.
Ah, there you go.
So maybe in comparison, I don't know, but I've been very fortunate.
So follow-up question to that, because we were talking about this in the locker room for a bit. There's a number of dudes on the roster who have very long, flowing, luxurious hair, but they use fucking Pert 2-in-1 or whatever it might be. What is your shampoo and conditioner of choice?
Okay, so thank you for asking me that. There was a time last year where every time I was taking a shower, there was hair in the drain, and I'm losing my freaking hair. So I went to see my dermatologist, who I love, great lady, and she said a lot of times if you have dandruff, you'll lose your hair. And so she was pulling on my hair. She said, "Yep, you got." I said, "Well, I've never noticed flakes on me," and she said. So she gave me this medicated shampoo that's by a prescription. Mm-hmm. And I've been using that, and I've lost no hair since then. So
damn.
I use prescription shampoo.
Fantastic. You've got the secrets.
But I also have another secret.
What?
I wash my face twice a day and moisturize.
That's what you have to do.
That's what you got to do.
People just don't understand that. Wash your face twice a day. Properly moisturize. Although it's not fair, because a lot of you dudes can just like take a Vino and slather it on and it's fine. And then like I have to go buy fucking expensive Clinique shit so I don't break out constantly. So fuck you, Tony. That's how we're actually ending this podcast.
Well, fuck you, Aubrey.
Fuck you. This was absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad we finally got a chance to do it. I've loved doing this podcast with you for the last year. I love doing ad reads about erectile dysfunction with you. I just love seeing you at work and immediately hugging you and commenting on your purple pants, and just being in your presence is so great because how happy you are radiates. And I think that is infectious. Like we talk a lot about like leading by example, and I think just showing how happy you are is something great that you give everyone else in the locker room.
Well, thanks. I make it a point to go around and the guys' locker room especially. I'm not going to walk in the girls' locker room.
We don't want your ass in there anyway.
Well, I think Britt may. But anyway, so I make it a point to go in and walk in the guys' locker rooms. We got a couple of them and say hello to them every time.
Yeah.
To let them know that I appreciate them being there. And I understand that this is my last great ride. And I think it's 2019. I can't say 2020 because, maybe 2020 because we've made things work. But 2019 will go down the greatest year I've ever had professionally in my life. And I'm really, really thankful for you and for everybody out there to be able to be a part of this.
Right.
And it's been a lot of fun. And it's been a lot of fun with you. And I think we're very fortunate to have Stacey Parra with us.
Oh, Stacey, our amazing producer.
We are, because she does a great job with putting together our podcast. And it's been a lot of fun. We've had some good stuff. We've had some good stuff on this podcast. And I look forward to doing a lot more moving forward.
I like in the Zoom, I just got a text from her that says, "Love you guys." Like, she's the best. Absolutely the best. Anyway, Tony, thank you so much for your time and hanging on. Always, like, spending whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours with you is always great. You can see Tony commentate on Dynamite every Wednesday, 8 o'clock, 7 Central on TNT. And you could follow this podcast, listen to it, subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast. New episodes every Thursday, new video episodes where you can see me flip off Tony on YouTube. Just search for AEW Unrestricted. I'm Aubrey Edwards here with Tony Schiavone. I hope I did you proud, Tony.